Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 99. As always, thanks to everyone for following and listening along to the podcast each and every week. Can't thank you all enough for your support and feedback. Been getting a lot of requests for more amateurs, more collegiate players, and more senior amateurs to be featured on future episodes. I definitely have an amazing lineup of guests over the next few weeks, and while this week we're going to enter the professional ranks, don't worry, more amateurs are on the way. By the way, if you take the time to reach out with comments, I send out some swag. Gary, I know you're listening. And yes, I know you don't do social media, but I appreciate the feedback all the way from South Carolina. Thanks for spreading the word to all of your golf buddies, and I hope you enjoyed the new Scotty Cameron putter that I sent you. And by Scotty Cameron putter, I mean Back of the Range Golf Podcast logo towel. I didn't send a putter. I don't even know if you're left-handed or right-handed. I mean, that's just outrageous. For those of you that aren't Gary, please follow along on social media channels. Remember, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The Instagram handle is where a lot of this stuff gets posted. That handle is the Back of the Range Podcast. We have towels and hats for sale on the website. I'm actually getting some more hats made up because I'm running out of them. So if you like those trucker hats, you might want to jump on that right now. Head over to the website and order a couple hats. Again, the website is thebackoftherange.com. Top right, you'll see a merch link, and there you go. A couple Mojo updates. Brandon Wu, Chandler Phillips, and Cole Hammer all got sponsor invites to the Houston Open last week on the PGA Tour. All three made the cut. Now, I know they would have liked to finish a little bit higher on the leaderboard, but for Brandon and Chandler, hey, they made a paycheck. And Cole got to spend a couple extra days in front of his hometown fans. So best of luck to those guys for the rest of the year. So if you're familiar at all with the mini tours here down in South Florida, there are a few names that always have seemed to be at the top of the leaderboard. On episode 53, I was able to catch up with Steve LeBrun, and since it was a very popular episode, I wanted to speak with another one of the prolific players that has competed on the minor league golf tour over the years. He just came off a very successful season on the Korn Ferry Tour. Our guest this week is Dan McCarthy from Syracuse, New York. We spoke about his start in the game and his college days playing for D2 Moyne College. We spoke about his incredible 2016 season on the Mackenzie Tour in Canada, and also a few of the highlights from last year that saw him find the winner's circle in Savannah by edging out Scottie Scheffler for his first Korn Ferry Tour win. So let's get started. Dan, thanks so much for joining me here at the Back of the Range. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, I don't know why I do this to myself, but during the Walker Cup episodes, I spoke with Alex Smalley from Duke, and now I'm speaking to you, and you're a Syracuse guy. I'm a Kansas Jayhawk. I don't know why I do this to myself. I mean, a lot of pain from Duke, a lot of pain from Syracuse that you've inflicted at that national championship when you guys had Carmelo Anthony. I remember where I was during that game. Give me the other side of the story. What were you doing when Syracuse won the national championship over my Kansas Jayhawks?
I was watching it. I was a senior in high school. I was watching it with a couple buddies. We were at home, and we got in a car after we won, and we drove up to Marshall Street, which is, the student, bar restaurant area in Syracuse. And, we drove around, and we were honking our horn, and, everybody was celebrating and climbing trees and the craziest thing you can possibly imagine. So it was a great night.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't, Dan, but that's okay. As long as you're
great
happy.
Night for us.
Oh yeah. As long as you're happy, and if I can butter up the guest before we're digging into your golf career, then my work here is done. So you're originally from Syracuse, and you went to Moyne College, D2 school in Syracuse. How they got the nickname or the mascot of Dolphins in Syracuse, New York, I don't know how that happened, but tell me how you find your way at Moyne College.
Well, I had a lot of family ties that went there, and I was originally going to go to St. Joseph's in Philly, which is an A10 school, but had a physical before I was going to go down there, and some things came back where my doctors just wanted me to stay home for a little bit to kind of make sure everything was okay. So I enrolled at Moyne. Ended up, we played some really good golf tournaments and met a lot of great people there, and ended up just deciding to stay at home. And the unique thing about golf, you're still playing golf no matter where you go, whether you go to Moyne or whether you go to Oklahoma State
Sure.
or whatever. Obviously the competition is better at the Division I level nowadays, but looking back on it, playing golf in the Northeast taught me how to play and how to grind through some extremely nasty weather conditions. So, it may not have been a bad thing in that regard. So, but it taught me how to win also.
Oh,
I won a
well,
lot of tournaments in college and all that. So,
yeah, no, I looked up your records, and I mean, all-time winningest. I think they have by winning percentage, but you're at the top of just about every single list there. You went into their Hall of Fame in 2017. So you mentioned the adverse conditions, the poor weather. So tell me a little bit. So this is probably around like the 2003 to 2006 range of when you were there, I'm guessing. Um,
hmm
so give me an idea of one of the worst condition golf tournaments that you ended up playing in, as far as weather or the course conditions. Let's elaborate on that. Give me an example of one of the, like, really, I'm out here playing golf in this.
well, ironically, it was about the southernmost tournament we had ever played, and it
Oh,
was in Ocean City, Maryland. We were playing a golf course called Rum Point, which is right on the water.
okay.
Beautiful golf course. And I mean, it was probably 38 degrees with a 30-mile-an-hour wind, and we were getting snow flurries. So it was literally snowing on us while we were playing. And the weather was so bad. One of the guys, I can't remember what school he was from, what team he was playing for. It was so bad, the guy walked off after 12 holes in the middle of a college tournament. The guy just flat out quit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then
I,
that.
I don't I
Yeah.
don't think he played another event for them, but I always look back on that tournament. That one stands out as just being god awful. I think I shot like 73 that day and was low by like 5 shots.
Oh, I would imagine. Well, I guess also, no matter how tough things get for you with going through developmental tours and working your way up to the web, and obviously winning last year, I would imagine that stays fresh in your mind. Anytime you want to quit, or maybe take the short cut, I guess you can think back to that guy and be like, well, I'm sure as hell not going to be that guy.
Yeah, that was I'm not necessarily trying to call him out for
Oh,
doing
no,
something
no.
stupid, but you know that was shocking.
Sure, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm
No
done.
matter what,
Yeah.
no matter what you're shooting at a college tournament, you always had to finish, whether you were embarrassed or whatever. But yeah, I couldn't believe the guy quit. It was I here I am 15 years or so later, and I'm still shocked by it. But yeah, that was hysterical. I talk about that day with some of my old teammates all the time. It was, God, we all get a good laugh out of it.
Well, you had this great career at Lemoyne. You turned pro in 2007. It's a lot different now, just, a little over 10 years later. A lot of these college players coming out of school, they're signing with agents, they're signing endorsement deals, they're dressed in new clubs and new clothes before they ever really get a first start on any tour. What was your experience, and what was your experience like declaring and starting your professional life? How did you get started? Where did you get started? Maybe kind of walk people through the realities of that, coming from a D2 school in the Northeast, as opposed to maybe some hotshot All American at a D1 school like Oklahoma State or Florida.
Well, obviously, I'm not one of the Wolves or the Morikawas or these young guys that come out and just explode on the scene. But I moved to West Palm in the fall of 2007, I think it was, and I turned pro by going to Q school. I didn't have a press conference or anything like that.
Okay.
But yeah, and I made it through pre-qualifying. Then I missed at first stage, and I think I moved down right after then. I just started playing the mini tours. I think I played a bunch of minor leagues, and then the Gateway Tour. It was their final season here, which was the remnants of the Golden Bear Tour.
Yeah.
I guess that tour was just dying from lack of sponsorship, or I'm not necessarily sure what happened, but I ponied up the money, and I think you had to put up 10 grand, I think, for an 8 or 9 event series. And it seemed like there were 60 or 70 guys every week, and it was like the 60 or 70 best players that have ever played the Golden Bear Tour. And I went out, and I think I only made like 2 or 3 cuts. I just got my head beat in, and realized that a lot of these guys have been playing all those same courses for many years, and I'm just coming out, and I'm 22 years old, and I'm like, not necessarily shell shocked, but I was like, whoa, these guys are, really, really good.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started. And then, just, you're touching on these younger guys that are coming out of school. Like, it shocks me really, even in the, I guess, 10, 12 years I've been a pro, at how much more prepared these guys are coming out of college than when I came out of college. I mean, there was a lot of great players that came out the same year as me, but you didn't have as many guys, as many 21, 22-year-olds winning, through these sponsor exemptions that they're getting on the PGA Tour, which, obviously they deserve to be given these spots, and,
Sure.
They've proven they can play. So it's, it's just amazing to me that, that just in the last 10, 12 years, how much the game has changed, and how much more prepared these kids are, coming out. It's great to see.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you this question a little bit later on, but we're kind of right around the topic. When you see that, you're 34, I believe, 34, 35 years old?
34.
Okay, so you're 34 years old. You see this, and how maybe this new youth movement is. I mean, the PGA Tour has always been getting younger and younger, but it's really going that way, especially with, Wolf Morikawa, Hovland, and all these other guys. When you see that, do you get a sense of urgency necessarily because, hey, I'm 34, or because, wow, 34 is a lot older on the PGA Tour than it used to be? Like, what, as a person that's chasing it as your career, I know it's great for the game of golf, but how does that affect you and your approach?
I wouldn't say, it doesn't necessarily freak me out or anything. I mean, everybody's development is different. Some people, explode onto the scene. Well, I shouldn't say some people. That's still the anomaly,
Right.
I think. But some people just take a little bit longer in their progression, and I'm still learning about my game and my swing, and and I try to iron things out, every day as I go along, to try to get better and more efficient and stuff like that. But when I first started playing, I think the average age for a rookie on the PGA Tour was 32 or 33 years old. So
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily too far off the curve of when I started playing. The things have changed, like I said, in the last 10 years. I'm not sure what the average age for a rookie on the PGA Tour is now, but I'm sure it's, even if it's gone down into the 20s, I'm sure it's 28, 29 at
right.
worst. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm still a little bit behind the curve in that respect, but I can only do what I do, and just try to get better every day and every year, and try to improve. And I think I've done that, especially the last 3 years, starting in Canada, then I got hurt, but 2018, I finished, I think, 55th or so on the money list. And this past year, I had a great opportunity to get a tour card, but I, ended up finishing 31st. So, I made a huge improvement there. I just plan to keep trying to do that, just get better every year. And these kids are, coming out much more prepared to play, but they're also in physically better shape. I didn't really start, doing workouts to target golf until about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm in the best shape I've ever been physically. So yeah, I'm just trying to progress, and do what I do and get better every year. And, it'll happen when it happens.
Yeah. Well, the place that you are working on this and trying to get better every day is Bear Lakes. And it's, Bear Lakes Country Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm a native South Floridian, so I know, it's right down the street from me. You have to pick a place in South Florida to kind of, make your camp. How did Bear Lakes become the place that you chose?
When I first moved down, I moved down with another buddy who was pursuing professional golf from upstate New York. And he had a couple of friends that lived in this area, and I didn't know anybody. So he asked me if I wanted to get a place with him down here. And I said yes. And he introduced me to his friends, and some of those guys were, members at Bear Lakes, and I inquired about joining out there, and I was able to get in a couple months after I moved here, and been there ever since. Met a lot of great people, and we have games pretty much every day if you're looking for it. So it's when I first joined there was probably 25, 30 pros that were either playing Golden Bear Tour or on I think it was the Nationwide Tour at the time, and there were several PJ Tour players there. So
Yeah.
it was a great spot to be if you wanted to learn and get better and really play. I can't stand sitting on the range for 3-4 hours hitting balls. I like to hit some balls and do what I'm working on, and then get out and take it to the course. So I like the fact that there was always games to play out there.
Who were some of the older pros that, when you first joined there, I guess around 07, 08, and you're down there and you're spending time, who were some of the pros that maybe you gravitated to that not necessarily consider as mentors, but guys that you're like, okay, how do I learn to be a professional? Like, it's not just shooting the scores. How do I treat this as my career, and how do I become a professional golfer?
Oh boy, let's see. I know Steve Marino was there back in the day. A guy named Jess Daly, who spent some time on the PJ Tour. I talked to him, picked his brain quite a bit. Justin Hicks, he was a long-time web tour and spent several years on the PJ Tour. So yeah, I've talked to him quite a bit. Gosh, there's probably 20 other guys who were on the Golden Bear Tour that I played against, and we had games out there with. And some are still playing, and some aren't anymore. So I think Brooks was out there for a little while. I think he and I played together a couple of times. I think he's still a member there. I know his little brother's there. I see him all the time.
Yeah,
I think he's up at Floridian now.
Yeah, I think they're members there. I do. I have to at least get your share of this story, but I did have the membership director there who played in several U.S. Opens. Mike Weeks was a guest on the podcast last year, and I think I asked him what was one of the more memorable things he's seen at Bear Lakes in his time there, and he brought up your performance in a ProScratch event where I think you birdied 11 out of your last 12 holes from the tips on the Lakes course, or was it Links course?
It was the Lakes course.
Lakes. All right. So when I heard that, I was like, okay. And I pressed him for a few details, and he gave me a couple. But when was that? Explain how that thing happened.
That was 2 years ago. So I think it was December 2017. It's the ProScratch. I always see as a fun tournament. A buddy of mine who used to live down here in West Palm, who at the time, at one point was trying to pursue professionally. He now lives in Dublin over in Ireland, and he comes over every year. We play in the tournament, and it is a golf tournament, but we like to have a good time that weekend. So we're out and about, and I think we teed off at like 9 o'clock. We had a good first round, so we were in the lead. So we teed off on one, and we just kind of kept it going from the night before. And
sure.
I didn't have a great start. I think I was a couple over through 6 holes, and I don't know if I just had the right amount of beers in me or whatever. But all of a sudden we got to 7, and I don't know. We just had an attitude like we didn't really care, whether we were winning or whatever. And I don't know. I just started making birdies. I think I made a couple of, maybe 30 footers or 20 footers, but I was mostly just hitting it good. I was hitting it close and making the putts, and I ended up chipping one in, but I was only like 15 feet from the hole, and just kept going. It got to the point where I just kept saying, all right, let's see if I can birdie the next one too. And I think I lipped out for an eagle chip on 17 as well. So it was I don't know. It was definitely the best streak I've ever had. So
yeah, a lot of players, whether they're guys on weekend players, amateurs, they kind of get nervous if they get on any sort of streak, whether it's birdies or pars. They feel like, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone here. I don't normally make 3 pars in a row or 3 birdies in a row, and ultimately they can't handle being in that uncomfortable moment, and it goes away. Have you always had the ability to go low, or it seems like some people have that and some people don't? Has that always been you, or have you had to work on your mental approach to get to that point?
No, I've always had the ability to go low. I can get really hot with the putter. So the days when I'm hitting it good and hitting it close and give myself a lot of chances, I can really go low. I can keep it going. I mean, I have worked on the mental approach to that. True. If you truly break it down to one shot at a time and put all your focus on the next shot, that really does help. That day during the ProScratch, my buddy and I were solely focused on having as much fun as we possibly could, no matter what happened, whether we won the tournament or not. So it was just a relaxed atmosphere. We had a good pairing. We were playing with a couple guys we knew, and they were having a good time as well. We were playing music. It was just a relaxed atmosphere, and I got on a heater and was just able to keep it going.
There you go. Before we talk a little bit about your run in 2016 on the Canadian Tour, the Mackenzie Tour, I should say, I just want to ask you, I had Scott Turner on from the Minor League Golf Tour. He runs that, does a great job down here in South Florida. There's always events and, Q School series, and just there's tons of things that tour does for aspiring professionals. I'm sure you're well aware of. Well, maybe you're not well aware. I know you're fourth in the career money list. Do you know how many career minor league wins you have right now?
I think it's 40 something.
Yeah, 49. So,
Oh.
so you're right there. I know that's not exactly where you're looking to play, but you never know. You might have an off week down here in South Florida and pop into, pencil in that 50th win. But speak to what maybe the minor league tour has been able to do for your career, as far as in the early years being on the developmental tour. What that's meant as far as helping you progress.
They do a phenomenal job. They provide 3 to 4 days a week where you can play and hone your skills and earn some money doing it. It's the Q School contests are fantastic. The tour, I think they have 4 majors now throughout the year where they get 10,000 first place. So before I got on, the web tour, the Korn Ferry Tour, or even the Mackenzie Tour, playing for 10 grand was a huge amount of money. It's still a lot of money. I mean, I won a couple of those, and getting a $10,000 check when you're a struggling mini tour pro is massive. It gives you a little bit of comfort for the next couple of months that you can pay your bills and stuff like that. But the thing that I think is most important is it taught me truly how to grind. And you got to shoot something in the 60s if you're going to win or make a check and make some money out there. And if you let's just say I'm even par through 7 or 8 holes, it taught me to really be patient, really grind, and really keep going and try to shoot, maybe make a couple birdies before the turn, and then try to shoot 3 or 4 under on the back 9 to see if you can get in the hunt and, at least make a profit on the day. So I never really had, big time sponsors who threw 50 grand in a bank account for me to go out and play with every year. My parents helped me out initially to get started, and I always had to kind of, fight my way for every single dollar, because I'm paying rent down here. You got car payments, you got, country club membership payments.
Yeah.
The expenses are extremely high doing what we do. And, for several years in a row, I played every day on the minor league tour, whether they were playing down in Fort Lauderdale or up in Stewart or Port St. Lucie. So, I drove all over the place chasing these tournaments, just, trying to hone my skills and make ends meet. They provide a great opportunity for guys living in this area to go out and compete and make some money doing it.
Well, one of the benefits of that tour, I took you eventually to 2016 to play in the Mackenzie Tour, and well, leading up to that, first of all, there's only 12 events. It's obviously can't play golf in Canada all year round. So, and I'm looking at that year that you had. There's 12 events. You win 4 of them. You win a third of the events on that tour, and you capture Player of the Year. It gives you the promotion and the exemption to the web. You mentioned being on a heater during that ProScratch. 11 birdies and 12 holes. As far as a being on a heater for a stretch of tournaments, is that just the hottest you think you've ever been? As up to this point, looking at 2016, can you maybe just walk us a little bit through what that run was like for you in 2016 on the Mackenzie Tour?
Yeah, that's undoubtedly the best golf I've ever played in my life. Even leading into that season, I won the Ocala Open in April. I think it was either April or March. So, just that stretch of golf for, a couple months before the Mackenzie Tour started, and then even afterwards, that year was just incredible. I mean, I've been trying to figure out how to tap back into whatever I was doing back then. I really have played solid the last 2 years.
Right.
So I don't want to say I honestly, I think I'm a better ball striker now than I was that summer. But I got into a great groove with my ball striking, and the prior years on the Mackenzie Tour, I really struggled with the driver. And I think at the end of 2015, I went and did a fitting at a place called Modern Golf just outside of Toronto, and I think there was only 2 tournaments left, and I was in danger of losing my card. I did this fitting right after I'd missed a cut, and I think I was able to negotiate with them that I was going to take that driver that I was using in their studio with me, no matter what. I was like, I want to buy this one. I don't want you guys to, order the shaft and build it and then send it to me, because it's never going to, it's never the same. No 2 driver shafts are the same, no matter what they say.
Right.
And they let me do it. They let me buy it. And I took it with me out to Nova Scotia the next week and finished 3rd, which got me in the Tour Championship to keep my card for the next year. So, even going back to that point, that kind of set me up to be able to play in 2016 up there. But, I got on a roll.
Yeah.
And then I putted so well that summer, it was crazy. I hit a lot of shots close to the pin, but I was making those putts. You can strike the ball great, and if you don't make the putts, then obviously you're not going to have anything to show for it. But my putting was spectacular that year.
I mean, first player to win 4 times in a season, set a record for largest margin of victory, 7 shots, lowest 72-hole score of 259. I did that twice, actually, at the Players' Cup and the Golf BC. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. What are maybe some of your memories off the golf course in Canada? I've been to Nova Scotia. I've played Cabot, which is an incredible place. Can you maybe speak to what it's like off the golf course, being on that tour as far as traveling around? Do you recommend that to guys that are trying to follow your similar path to make it to the PGA Tour? We don't hear a lot about it. I think the last big noise I kind of saw coming out of that tour is when Tyler McCumber was kind of doing what you were doing, kind of winning just about every other week, it seemed. How's that tour off the golf course?
They do a tremendous job on that tour. I still keep in touch with all the people that were running the tour when I was up there, and it gets better every year. I know the purses have gone up since I played there, but there's a lot of other guys that I've seen in interviews, read in interviews, or listened to, or whatever, that talk about the Mackenzie Tour being the best time they've ever had in professional golf, and I completely agree with them.
Okay. So what makes it that? I mean, we don't have to talk about all the Labatts, or I mean, but I mean, what about the tour? Because is it more the people? Is it more the country itself? Because I mean, there's tons of these tours, like the Latin American tour. There's tons of them.
It's everything, from the guys who run the tour to the fans, the volunteers, the locations we go to. I tell everybody that if I all of a sudden have to up and disappear for whatever reason, you can find me somewhere in the Pacific Northwest and in BC, in British Columbia. It's just, I got excited every single year to go out there. The first 3 weeks are in BC. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. I mean, the most beautiful place I've ever seen is in Banff, which is in the Canadian Rockies in Alberta. We play in Calgary every year, and I'd take 2 days. I'd drive up there and just hang out, ride a gondola up to the top of the mountain. Just, you look down, there's this like aqua blue lake that's a glacier fed lake. It's just spectacular.
Yeah, that is one place I'm trying to get to Banff. I want to go play there.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
What a place.
Yeah, that's not a pro event. I need to go on a golf vacation. I can't handle all that stress. So
I'd recommend it in any fashion. Whatever you can do to get there, I would recommend it.
What was kind of the jump in maybe intensity that you may have felt going from Canada to the Korn Ferry Tour? I think it's interesting how that tour has so many great players. Every tour has so many great players, but maybe the casual observer or the casual follower of professional golf may not realize just how good the players are on that tour.
You know, the tour is either, the Korn Ferry Tour is made up of guys who've either been on the PGA Tour or are going to the PGA Tour. So you got extremely, young, talented guys or extremely talented guys who've been on the PGA Tour, been at the highest level, and coming back down and want to get back there. So there's such a drive. I'm not saying there isn't drive on every other tour to, get to the next level, but it's just, really, really intense out there. Guys want to get to that next level. Everybody wants to win on the PGA Tour for, a lot of different reasons, but pressure, I guess, when you get in the hunt out there, it's just, it's hard not to think about the fact that you're on the cusp of, making all your dreams come true. If you've never been to the PGA Tour, like I've played a few events out there, but I've never had status. So, when you get in the hunt, there's just a lot on the line. There's, whether it's financial reasons or, just trying to accomplish a goal, you can prepare yourself for the moment, but you can't really figure out how you're going to react until you get in the moment. And I've been in the hunt several times. It took me a few times of messing up on the Mackenzie Tour to, really understand how my body reacts in those situations. And, a couple times on the Web Tour or on the Korn Ferry Tour as well. I think I was one shot off the lead in Exuma and a couple years ago, and I ended up finishing fourth. But then I think I had the 36-hole lead in 2018 and ended up finishing 20th or so. But it's just part of the learning process for me is how my body and how my brain and everything's going to react when I get under the gun like that. If you're going to be battling nerves, I don't care who you are, you're going to be nervous.
I meant to ask you this, before you got your status on Mackenzie and then moved up to Korn Ferry, you spent the years, doing, I think you spoke earlier about going to Q school multiple times. And I guess my question is, it probably is easy for guys to go on a merry-go-round of like, okay, mini tours, then Q school, then mini tours, then Q school, and go back and forth. What were maybe some of the things that you tried to focus on, or did you have a process of sitting down at the end of the year, analyzing what you did? How do I improve? What needs to be improved? I'm just wondering if you had any sort of a process to maybe give yourself a little pause before just starting another year of same old, same old.
Yeah, I would always, I'm a pretty analytical guy. I like taking videos and tracking progress on what I'm working on. But yeah, so I was always trying to get better, no matter what time of year it was. Sure. But, especially after Q school, whether I missed it first stage or second stage, I only made it to finals one time. So I think I missed it second stage probably 5 or 6 times out of 10 times of going to Q school. So I would always have a little bit of downtime in November and December to just kind of sit down and assess what I needed to do to get better. And I think when I first started playing was when Steve Stricker was making his comeback, from the depths that he went through. And I always loved his swing. It was just so efficient, and it just looked like such low stress, such low maintenance. And my goal was always to kind of mimic what he does. And there's, I actually work with the same coach, and who happens to be his father-in-law that he does.
You work with Tiz.
Yeah. And I do a lot of the same things. It doesn't necessarily look the same as Steve, just because, we're built differently and stuff like that. But, I've come a long, long way in the last 10 years in terms of making my swing more efficient. So I would sit down at the end of every year and identify, 1 or 2 specific areas in my game or in my swing that I needed to improve upon. And, I would just go to work. If I have something I really need to work on, I know I mentioned earlier, I don't like sitting there beating balls on the range, but I will do it. If I got something I think I really need to get in, and, the only way I know how to do it is through repetitions, whether it's sitting there hitting balls. And, I have a mirror right here in my living room that I do a lot of mirror work at night on my swing and just working on certain aspects. So, I don't want to say I get obsessive, but I guess I kind of do when I'm trying to, implement something into my game. So I'm pretty analytical in that regard in terms of identifying areas on how I need to get better.
Sure. Well, you mentioned work. I know you need to get some work in today, but I just want to kind of get you out on one final question. You've been a veteran. You've been playing professionally since over a decade, and there's a lot of guys that are going to be making that jump and turning professional, whether they're in the college ranks or the junior golfers. That's their dream. Can you maybe give an example of one thing that you've learned throughout your time that you kind of wish someone told you your first day as a pro?
Obviously, if you're thinking about turning pro, there's something that you do specifically that makes you a hell of a player, whether it's your putting or whether you hit at 350 or whatever it is. Figure it out. Figure out what you are, what kind of player you are. So for me, in my instance, I'm not a bomber by any means. I think I finished 150th on tour this year in driving distance. I mean, I think my average was about 290, so I hit it long enough.
Right.
But I hit it straight, and if I'm hitting it crooked, I'm really going to struggle. So for me, it was I had to figure out a way to always hit it in the fairway. I mean, obviously we all miss fairways, but
sure,
I need to keep the ball in play at all costs. So whether it's you're a phenomenal chipper and putter, just make sure you learn who you are and you own it and never change. Obviously work on the weaker part of your games and try to turn them into strengths, but just own who you are and never change just because there's a new hotshot kid out on tour that is hitting at 350. I'd love to be hitting at 350, but I'm never going to do that. And I've seen a lot of guys chase that, chase things that they aren't, themselves. And that leads, a lot of them end up not playing anymore because of it. So I would just say, learn who you are and learn what type of play you are and own it and, perfect it as best you can and see how far that takes you.
You've played all over the world. You've played, in many tours. Has there ever been a tournament due to either the course conditions or the travel arrangements or the accommodations? Has there ever been a tournament where you're like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, what was the horror story that, if anything, would have caused you to possibly shut it down? Do you have one that would have caused you to shut it down?
I'm sure. It may have been back in the Hooters Tour days, I guess.
Okay, Hooters Tour.
Trying to think. Where the hell was that? I think we were playing a course that had aerated greens. They weren't aerified. It was in Ocala. We were playing, I think it was called Golden Hills or something like that.
Golden Ocala?
Maybe that, yeah. I think it's, yeah.
The one with the one with the replica holes?
No, it's not. Doesn't have replica holes.
Oh, okay.
I think it was called Golden Hills. They had like a U.S. Women's Mid-Am in October the year before, and we were playing there in February or March. And there's something about like the USGA wouldn't let them overseed or vice versa. Something happened, and as a result of the USGA not letting them do this, they lost their greens like completely. There was no grass; they were dead. And we get up there that week, and the greens were literally green sand. And I'm not kidding. It was one of those instances where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to play on this. Like, I might just try to get my money back and get out of here. That taught me a very good lesson that week because I ended up shooting, I think I was like 6 over for the week, which ended up being like 15th.
Okay.
So I ended up making pretty good money because back, the Hooters Tour was great back in the day when I first started playing. They had $200,000 purses. The winner got like 35 grand. I mean, you could make some serious money. Like, guys like Ted Potter and several other guys, Jeff Core. Yeah. Those guys would make, 100, 150 grand on that tour every year. So the lesson was, no matter what the course conditions are going into it, just grind it out. Because everybody's playing the same conditions. Because yeah, I ended up finishing 15th that week, and probably made a $6,000 check. But I mean, these greens were in such rough shape that I swear to God, I think I missed a 1-foot putt that week. Going through my routine, lining it up,
Right.
right center. But the spike marks in the sand. I mean, the ball could literally go any direction off the face. It was terrifying.
Oh, wow.
But that one, God, that was so long ago. That still sticks out in my mind. That was crazy. That I felt terrible for the golf course because it really was out of their control. And it's
Right.
a beautiful golf course. Like tee to green, this place is spectacular.
Well said. I definitely appreciate the time. We'll be following you when things get started on the Korn Ferry Tour. I know you got to get ready for that, and wish you all the best making it to the PGA Tour as quickly as possible. And hopefully we'll be able to do it again soon. And thank you for joining us here at the Back of the Range, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Dan McCarthy for joining us this week. All the best to him in the upcoming Korn Ferry Tour season. Don't forget, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Leave a review in Apple Podcasts. Everything you need to know, every episode is at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you next time for our 100th episode here at the Back of the Range.